Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our baby box card. It's been quite some time since we actually released a box card, so I'm excited to, to release something a little bit new. This card will be perfect for someone that's expecting or someone that had a baby, or even great for baby showers, anything baby related obviously. So what I did off camera was I kind of took the sections and separated them just to simplify things for us. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece here, okay, and I've already pre-folded everything, and we're going to begin by putting this layer right down onto the white layer here, and you can see exactly where it needs to go because we have somewhat of a little shadow element on the little insert. Okay, so we're going to get our glue on this piece here and just get it glued down. You can see exactly where it needs to go. Just line that up nicely. If you have a little bit of glue that squirts out, just rub it off with your fingers. Okay. And now this, what we're doing here is we're actually creating just additional little layers of dimension. Okay, and these are going to be his little feet. And on top of it is going to go this layer here, which I did ink. And obviously this entire card mostly is inked, so if you do want to ink, I would probably just do that before you get started with the assembly. There's really no markers on this, so all you're going to do is just do your best to get that nice and centered. Okay, so that's there, and then we'll put this one on here, and then we're actually going to take some little foam squares and just foam these on top of the main layer here, or this one right here, just to make his feet look a little extra dimensional. You could technically glue it down flat if you want, but totally not necessary. Okay, now with it being the size that it is, I'm going to flip it over, and I think I can fit a large one on there. That will keep it more stable. It will keep it from like wiggling around, and it will also keep it on there more permanently. You can never go wrong with a little extra adhesive, and we're going to overlay it right on top of this section here, just like that. And I'll do the same thing with the other one. Okay, there we go. And there you have it. Okay, so you can put that off to the side. I'm gonna move this out of the way. And if it helps, you can definitely take a little, or pause the video right here and just take a look at all the pieces that you need to create this. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. This is our main layer here, and this is the layer that's going to go right on top, and that is just to make it a little more sturdy so it doesn't wobble and shake and end up getting all droopy. So we're kind of doubling it up, but we do need to get this layer on first. Okay, so let's get our glue on here. There's a lot of little areas here, so we want to make sure that we try to cover them as accurately as possible and try to be as thorough as possible. I'm going to pop this right on top of the previous layer. I'm actually looking at the little sleeves of the shirt initially, and then just going to go around and just make sure that everything else is lining up accurately. If it's off a tiny little bit, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, there we go. Make sure you get it all the way down here as well. Okay, next, I'm just kind of working my way up here. Next, we're going to throw or put the shirt on here. Okay, and the shirt has this little element inside of it as well, so we do need to put that in. It's going to go in like a little puzzle piece. Not a lot going on here in the way of three-dimensional stuff. This is mostly paper piecing, and then as you'll see when we go to actually create the box card, it's very impressive looking, but it's not difficult at all. Okay, so we're going to line that up as accurately as we can, right in that little spot. Okay, then we're going to put this little circle element in there. And you could totally, if you wanted to, like put the baby's initials in this little thing, almost like it has a little custom t-shirt on it. Just pop that in like a little puzzle, just like that. Okay. The little rattle is going to go on next. It's going to go right here. Let me just clean this off real quick. Okay. Get the rattle on there. Go easy with the glue here. You don't need a lot. And just line that up with the existing little shadow. And we do have a little accent piece for the rattle as well that we need to put on. Okay, and if you feel like you got too much glue on there, just kind of dab it with your finger to thin it out. There's also no little marker on this, but when the edges of this little accent piece go on, it should fit the curvature of the actual rattle there. Okay, so we've got that. Next, we're actually going to take, and with the little hands, the hands are going to take some little foam squares. So I have two sizes of foam squares. I've got some small and I've got some large. This one I think is going to be too small for the large piece, so I'm just going to go with the smaller one. I'm going to peel that backing off, and this is going to go right here. And this guy's going to go right there over the rattle. The baby's doing some goo gagas. He's all excited in his little crib. Very active. And again, with the little foam square on there, so you can see it almost looks like his hands are very dimensional, which is exactly what we're going for. Okay. All right, so now just need to put the head together. We're going to start off with this peach layer, and then we're going to add this yellow layer, and that's going to show through his little hat, and it's going to give him that little bit of hair that's showing. Okay, obviously this can be made for a boy or a girl. We kind of did it, we didn't want to make it boy or girl so that you don't get confused. We want you to realize that this can be made for either or. Just select some nice colors that are appropriate. Okay, so that's going down. Next layer here, he or she has some nice little rosy cheeks. And there are some little markers on the face to help you with the positioning of these little guys. So use those. You'll see the little circles there. And then you're probably wondering to yourself, well, what are those other little marks there? And those are for the facial features. What I would do, all we're doing is just drawing tiny little ovals for his eyes and then a little smile. I would personally do it with a pencil first, just to make sure that you're happy with how it looks. Get a nice sharp pencil. And then if you want to fill it in with a marker, you can. You'll see down here that there is a little smile. Okay, and the eyes are just going to be little ovals. Just color them in. Just like that. Okay, and again, if you want, I might take a little bit of a marker and just darken that in a little bit, but I think that looks fine. Okay, next up, we've got this part of the hat. Let's go ahead and get that down. Nice and easy. Go easy with the glue, especially around these little cutouts that have a little center cutout. If you did get too much on there, just kind of dab it with your finger a little bit to thin it out. And then we're going to pop that right on there. I'm using the little ears as my initial guide for placement, and then the rest of it should just fall into place. Perfect. And then we've got this little accent piece. I would focus most of the glue on the part that doesn't have the little cutouts, and maybe just throw a couple little dots of glue in between. Again, if you get too much glue on any area, just thin it out with your finger so that it doesn't go shooting all over the place. Make sure you're wiping your finger off as you go as well. I use a little damp sponge. Sometimes it's not damp at all. Sometimes it's totally dry underneath my table. Okay, now we're going to take and put the head right there. Okay, and I'm actually going to put some foam squares Let me see here. I use some foam squares. Probably can fit 2 of them on there just to keep it sturdy. I guess you could probably maybe put one of those action wobbles on the head, but I think I did that with something with a head once and it looked really creepy, so I kind of stay away from that. But that's going to go right about there. Okay, so there is our baby layer. That's the next layer that's ready to go. And now it is time for the main bulk of the card here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this piece here. This is the main part of the back of the card. Okay, and I'm going to start off by putting this piece on. It's going to be flush at the bottom, and you want to make sure that you obviously get it nice and centered. There are little markers on here to help you with the positioning of this piece. Okay, so once we get the glue on here, when we place it onto that white section, I just want to make sure to keep it within the confines of those little markers, because the other part of the card, this little turquoise part that I have over here, needs to fit into these little marker areas here too, but on the opposite side. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. Just make sure it's centered, flush on the bottom. There we go, and press that down. There we go. Okay, now it may also help while you're waiting or while you're working on other things to take these layers and just put them underneath a mat so that they kind of set more flat. Okay, all right, so we've got that. On the back of this, we have this extra panel. You don't have to use it if you don't want. I thought it would just kind of complete the look and look real nice. I also like stamping on the texture side. It kind of looks nicer in my opinion with all that texture. Some of you may not like that. I do. It is easier to write and stamp on the smooth texture, but I like this. I like the on the smooth side of the paper rather than the texture side. But I love the texture, so I like to include it anywhere I can. Just want to make sure you get that nice and centered so that this piece has a nice even border going all the way around. Okay, so now that we have that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this layer here and we're going to just glue this down flat. You can see that there's kind of like a little shadow section there, so that's where you want to put that. We have that little shadow area up at the top so that you can know how to put this down correctly. It's almost like I wouldn't call it a puzzle, but just a little identifier there. So you see exactly where it goes. Make sure you get it right over to hide the pattern paper there. Okay, next we're going to take these 2 little flowers, and we're not doing anything special with these. They're just going down flat. Figured we have enough dimension everywhere that we don't need to add it in every single spot. And just line that up with the existing little shadow layer there. Okay. Get some glue on the next one. And that's going to go right here. Just like that. Okay. And then next, we're going to take this piece. This piece is going to go right here. But we don't have to glue it all the way down. What I'm going to do is actually take it and pinch it to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm putting it between these 2 fingers, pushing down with my pointer, and then kind of working my fingers out to the edge and giving it a little bit of a pinch, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And I'm going to say that you just put a little bit of glue here in the center, maybe a little bit to the left and to the right, but you don't need to go all the way out to the edge, because technically it's kind of above these little flowers. Okay, let's make sure that that went on straight. There we go. Okay, and then we have a little 3-dimensional flower. I'm going to take a tiny little dowel and place the individual petal between my finger and the dowel, lift it up about 90 degrees, and then run the dowel through. Okay, and I'm going to do that to all 4 sides. And that's just going to give it a very, very slight little curve. Okay, this one's going to go kind of diagonally, like an X, not a plus. I'm going to put a drop of glue right in the center. Okay, and like I said, an X, not a plus. It's going to go right there, just like that. And then this guy here, do the same thing with the dowel. Place it between your finger and the dowel, each petal, lift it up 90 degrees, run the dowel through. 90 degrees, run it through. Run it through, one more time. There we go. And we'll top this off in the center with just a little pearl or a rhinestone. You don't have to do that, but I think it would look nice. Get that nice and centered on the previous flower. Press that into place. And there we go. Okay. All right, so now, next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to work on this piece. And you can see how after you add the glue to some of these, they don't necessarily sit flat. So it might help to put it underneath. Might help to put it underneath a mat temporarily just to let it kind of dry flat. Okay, so now this is the front and sides of the card. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put these little panels on. Okay, so I've got these two panels. They are not squares, they're rectangles, so you want to make sure that you're putting them on correctly. Make sure we get some glue out to the edges here. That's important. And you can see the inking that I did and how nice that looks. Okay, there we go. Grab the next one. Okay. And the next one there. There we go. All right, so now we have, there's a little baby bottle that we need to put together that's actually going to get glued to the inside of this. So let's put that together. I have this solid layer, and then I have this layer with the little cutouts. The one with the cutouts is going to go on top of the solid layer, so let's do that. This is kind of a small piece as well, so I'm just going to hit this with a few dots and then use my finger to kind of spread it around. Okay, and now just pop that right on top of the previous layer, just like that. And then there's one more layer that goes on top. That's like the little pacifier part of it. Shows you how much experience I have with babies. Okay, there we go. And voila. Okay, so that's going to go on like that. And then you can see a little set of markers there. That's to help you position this thing correctly. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but I'm going to throw just a little bit of glue on there, dab it with my finger, and then just use those guides to get that in the right spot. It's just a small little piece of it that's actually going to be glued down. So there you go. That's how that's going to work. Okay, we got those side panels on. This is actually going to be 2 layers thick, so we need to glue 1 layer on top of the other. And we've got a lot of little details here, so make sure that you get these little extremities here covered nicely with some glue so they don't go peeling apart. And actually, those are probably the most important parts to cover with glue. We'll just get a little bit in here. Okay, let's place that right on top of itself. Just like that. Make sure it's accurately aligned, and then go ahead and press that down. Give that a nice, good press. And then finally, we have a little heart that's going to go right there. Just throw a little glue on it and pop it into place. Okay, and the final overlay on the front of the crib here is the word baby. And we have a shadow layer, and then we have the actual letters. So we're just going to go very easy on the glue here. Just a few little dots. I would dab that with your finger, and you can pretty much tell where each of these needs to go. You want to try to keep a nice even border around each of the letters. Okay, so let's get those going, and then before you know it, I'll be putting the actual card together, which is going to be child's play. How about that pun there for you? I guess it's not a pun. Okay. Pretty simple. This would maybe be a good time to get out the old pick-me-up tool. If you have a hard time working with small little pieces like this, it's definitely handy. I like to try to use as little tools as possible. Obviously, if I feel like it's going to impact the end result, then I won't do it with my fingers. I'll actually get the appropriate tool out, but I'll say I'm doing all right here with my hands and my fingers. There we go. Okay. And then you can see here on the actual crib are 4 little markers, and that is to help you accurately place this in the correct location. Okay, so just follow the little markers there, and there we go. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do, and you can see on this piece here, we've got these little window-shaped cutouts. This is going to get glued down right on top of those. So you want to make sure you just match those up. And what I would suggest doing is you can actually tuck these back, the other flaps. Okay, so next we're going to put the face of the crib on. And what you want to do, you don't want to put glue on this part because you might miss some spots. So what I would suggest doing, if you take a look at how it actually sits on here, you'll notice what parts are actually going to be glued down. So we're going to go all the way out to the edge of the crib, but we don't need to go above this line here. So we don't need to do this section here, but we do need to do the entire bottom. Okay, so we're going to keep it, I'll show you where. Got to go down here, got to get this little swoosh, and down here as well. We'll get the inside. But we don't need to go above this section here, okay? You can do a few little dots here and there if you want, that's fine. Okay, and you just want to match it up with the existing little window-shaped cutouts. Get it nice and aligned and centered, then press that down. You'll see that little bits of this are kind of hanging over, and that's by design. Okay, there we go. And this should fold nicely, just like that. Make sure that the edges are on nice and solid. Okay, so now we're done with our pop dots, or our foam squares I should say. We're ready to assemble this thing. So let's get all of the pieces out, all of our layers. And the first thing we need to do is assemble the actual base of the card. These are the 2 inserts, so those are going to go in last. And what we're going to do is take and glue these little tabs to these little sections here where we have the white with that little odd-shaped cutout. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 1 tab at a time, just so that I can be very precise with it. It's a pretty vital part of the assembly here. So take it like this. The edge of this needs to be flush with the edge of this base here. Make sure it's flush at the bottom as well. And then you can actually just lay this out flat and press it down. It should fit perfectly like a little puzzle. Okay, give that a few seconds to set, just like that. And then we're going to take the other piece here, the other tab. Careful with the little crib face there, so you don't break anything on accident. Spread that glue out nice and thin. Bring this over and just pop it right into that little white area. And again, it should be flush with the bottom and flush with the outside. You can actually fold it down like this, okay? Because technically, you're going to mail this out flat, so it should be able to sway back and forth in both directions, okay? So there's our beautiful card base. We've got a nice little area on the back. And now it's time to actually put the inserts in. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start with this layer first, the main part here, and that's going to go in. These little tabs here are going to be facing away from you. We're going to put glue on the outside. We're going to slide it in, and then these 2 tabs here are going to get attached to the inside here. So we're going to push it all the way in, and then we're going to push it out to the side. We want to make sure that it's flush with the bottom and that these little tabs that are pointing towards the back are actually touching the back of this. So you want to put it back in as far as you can. Okay, but I think with this, based on the amount of box cards I've made, I think it's a good idea to get glue on the entire surface here and do both sides at the same time. I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin so that I can cover the entire part of it. I want to get glue on this whole thing so that it's nice and strong. Okay, and just like I said, we're going to take this, you can kind of bring these in just a tad, pop it in, and push it all the way back as far as it'll go, and then press it up against the side of the card. Again, as far as it'll go back. And then push that side up against there as well. Should be flush with the bottom. And then as it's drying, you can actually put this down flat and press down like that a couple times. You can go back and forth a few times and continue pressing. Should be able to sway back and forth with no issue. Okay, so that's what we've got so far, and that is beyond cute. Okay, that looks great. Now we're going to take this piece, do the same thing. The tabs are going to be facing away from you. We're going to pop them in. They're going to go as far as they can so that they're touching the face of the previous layer, this one here. Okay, so these tabs here, you can see these tabs are going to go as far as they can go on both sides, and we're going to glue them to the side, and then from the front, you can see how it looks like his little feet are really out there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. Get our glue on both tabs, good coverage on it completely. I'm going to completely cover that tab. Okay, and the same thing on this side. That should do it. And it's good to thin it out too, because if you happen to, when you put this in, if it happens to scrape up against something, you're not going to leave a whole ton of glue residue everywhere. Okay, so I've got it flush with the table right now. I'm going to push it back as far as it'll go. That's good. Same with that. Press that down, make sure it's flush, and then you can again take it and just kind of go back and forth to help that glue really sit. If you feel a little bit of resistance, that's okay. Just continue to kind of push down gently. The tabs at the score marks will kind of tear a little bit just to loosen up, but that's okay because it will actually make it so that it flows more freely. Now be patient, wait for these to really set. Okay, but there you have it, that's it. Ready to go. Very, very cute. Okay, so that card's done. Now we also, as always, as with all of our cards, we've included an envelope as well. Okay, and with this envelope here, we have this gorgeous little decorative flap. And what you want is the green layer is going to be behind this layer. So you want the little cutouts on top, and that's going to go in here like that, so that we have this three-tone thing going on. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is glue this piece down to the green piece. So let's do that. Go easy on the glue here. Definitely get it out to the edges. This is going to go right on top of this piece. These are identical, minus the fact that the one I'm holding on top has a little cutout. So just line that up nicely. Okay, and as I mentioned, this is going to go right in here, and we are going to have to kind of look from the front to make sure that we get it lined up correctly. So what we want to do is just put glue on this entire section here. Well, actually, you know what? I think it would be better to actually put glue. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll put glue around the perimeter of this, like so. And then we can work a little bit of glue around this, just so we don't accidentally get glue in sections that we don't need. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, just want to make sure that we're looking at it through the top here, through the face of this. And just getting that lined up accurately with the little leaves and press that down. Okay, keep on pressing. There we go. And you can see that that's nice and centered now. And then all that's left to do here is fold these tabs down. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this piece and anchor it to the bottom first. So go ahead and get your glue going on this tab. Go easy on the glue. Bring it down all the way to the very edge. And then we can take this, get it nice and centered and lined up with this tab, flush at the bottom. Oops. Okay, there we go. And just press that down. Continue to hold that down for a minute while it sets. Okay. And then you can flip it back, press down, and then we just need to put glue on the 2 remaining tabs. And we'll close it up. So go ahead and do that. There we go. And all you have to do is just take this and push it down, and it should fall right onto those tabs exactly where it needs to, since we already have it hinged on the bottom. And I would just be patient with this, let it fully dry. Sometimes I kind of jump the gun with the envelopes, but anyway, I'm not going to put it in here, but you can see that it will fit into this beautiful envelope. It's not that big. It's a pretty good size. And that's going to do it for this one, guys. So that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button. I've got a little counter there behind me that you can see, and I love coming in and seeing the numbers grow. So if you enjoyed yourself, please consider subscribing. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, where you can join myself and I think we're at about 34,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So anyway, I had a blast. I hope you did too. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.